76 years old. Just think about it. 76 long years, and here I am standing in front of the bathroom mirror, trying to smooth out the rest of my gray hair. There's a razor on a cracked shelf, old but reliable, just like me. It's my birthday today, and Vinny's coming with his family again. I'll have to endure their condescending looks again. I, Harold Knightley, have been a school history teacher in Kennewick all my life. Now I live alone in the house I once bought with Eleanor. 7 years since she's been gone. 7 years I've listened to Winnie's endless hints that it's time for me to move somewhere more comfortable. I rinsed my face with cold water and wiped it with a towel. My hands were shaking more than usual. Nerves, that's all. I should have taken my blood pressure pills, but again I'd forgotten where I'd put the packet. In the living room, I corrected Eleanor's picture on the mantel. Her smile still made my heart beat faster. She always had a knack for smoothing over the sharp edges between Winnie and me. Our daughter was never an easy person. Stubborn, willful, always dissatisfied. But when Eleanor was alive, at least she pretended to respect me. At Eleanor's funeral, Winnie didn't even cry. She was stone-faced, and after the ceremony, the first thing she asked me about was the will. Not about how I was going to live my life, not if I needed help, about the money, about the damn house. Every year she got more and more insistent. First it was innocent offers to help pay the bills. Then it was caring advice about nursing homes. Now it was direct hints that I should sell the house and give her the money to take care of me. That's bullshit. I know full well that the only thing she will take care of is her bank account. I was snapped out of my musings by the doorbell. I glanced at my watch. 12 hours and 30 minutes. Of course they'd arrived early. Vinny always does that on purpose to catch me off guard. I opened the door and immediately received a formal kiss on the cheek from my daughter, cold as a rock in January. "Happy birthday, Daddy," Winnie said as she walked past me into the house. "You should at least get a haircut for the party." Her husband, Archibald, lanky, with a guilty look on his face, followed her. He shook my hand and mumbled a greeting without making eye contact. In all the years we'd known each other, I don't remember him ever expressing an opinion of his own in the presence of my daughter. My grandchildren were the last to enter. Dexter, a 16-year-old with his head down and his eyes fixed on the phone screen, and Mary Beth, a 14-year-old girl with Eleanor's eyes. "Hi, Grandpa," Mary Beth said quietly and gave me a real hug. "Happy birthday." Dexter just mumbled something unintelligible, keeping his eyes on the phone. I clapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, man, how was school?" He shrugged and walked into the living room without even looking at me. "Dexter got a perfect score in science last semester," Winnie said, taking off her coat. "We're proud of him." I nodded, even though I didn't care. Dexter hadn't said one decent sentence to me in the last 3 years. That didn't seem to bother Winifred at all. "Well, come on in," I said. "I've prepared a light lunch." "I hope it's not your signature stew," Winnie grumbled. "Archie had indigestion for a week last time." Archibald smiled guiltily, as if apologizing for his stomach. "Actually, I ordered food from the restaurant," I said. "From River House. Actually, I cooked it all myself. Spent 3 days cooking the dishes my daughter once loved. But after last year's fiasco when she mocked my senile culinary arts, I decided to lie." "Oh, River House," Winnie perked up. "You're finally starting to take my advice." She headed for the kitchen and I stayed with Archibald and the kids in the living room. "How's work going, Arch?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "Fine," Archibald shrugged. "The roads are good now and the weather's cooperating. I'm going to Florida next month." He'd been a truck driver for 15 years. Honest, hard work, the kind of work Winnie always berated him for. From the kitchen, Winnie shouted, "Daddy, you lied again. This isn't restaurant food." I sighed. Here we go. She burst into the living room with the look of a prosecutor catching a criminal. Why are you doing this? Why are you lying about such a small thing? She lowered her voice. It's the first signs, you know. First little lies, then you start forgetting names, then you can't find your way home. I remember the way home perfectly well, Winifred, I said. There's nothing wrong with my memory. I lied because I knew you'd turn your nose up at my cooking without even tasting it. Mary Beth coughed softly. Mommy, can't we just eat? I'm sure Grandpa tried very hard. Of course he did, honey. Winnie changed her tone instantly. It's just that Grandpa shouldn't be working so hard at his age, and he shouldn't be lying to us. Right, Daddy? I didn't say anything. It was a waste of energy to argue with her. We went into the kitchen where I set out the dishes. Roasted chicken with herbs, mashed potatoes, vegetable salad, and apple pie for dessert. Everything just like Winnie had loved as a child when Eleanor was alive and we were a real family. It looks, edible, Winnie said condescendingly, looking around the table. The chicken seems dried out, though. Mary Beth gave her mother a reproachful look and sat down at the table first. It smells delicious, Grandpa. Thank you for making all this. I smiled gratefully at my granddaughter. She was the only one in the family who had inherited Eleanor's kindness. We sat down at the table. Dexter finally put the phone away, but only because Winnie shushed him twice. He looked at the food like I was trying to poison him. So, Dad, Winnie began, putting some salad on. Archie and I have been thinking about your future. I tensed. That phrase never boded well. My future's just fine, thank you, I replied, cutting off a piece of chicken. But you can't live alone in this old house forever, she continued, as if she hadn't heard me. It's too big for you. It needs constant repairs. The stairs are getting dangerous at your age. And then you need companionship, care. I have companionship, I objected. I go to the library twice a week. I meet Edwin on Wednesdays. We play chess. Edwin? That old policeman? Winnie snorted. He's almost out of his mind. Edwin's 78, and his mind is sharper than a lot of 30-year-olds. I set my fork aside. My appetite was gone. Listen, Daddy, Winnie leaned across the table toward me. I found a great place. Sunny Hills is a modern boarding house for the elderly. They have medical staff, regular activities, comfortable rooms. I'm not going to a nursing home, Winifred, I said firmly. It's not a nursing home. It's a community for active retirees, she raised her voice. Be reasonable. This house could be sold for good money. The neighborhood has become popular. Prices have gone up. You could get enough to live comfortably in Sunny Hills and still have some left over. For what? Your new car? Or college for Dexter? I couldn't help myself. Winnie went ballistic. How dare you? I'm only thinking of your well-being. You're becoming unbearable, Dad. You forget everything. You cheat. You're stubborn. Archibald put his hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her down. Winnie, maybe not now. It's a birthday. Shut up, Arch, she snapped at him. You don't understand anything. He's my father, and I know better than he does what he wants. Mary Beth stared at her plate without looking up. Dexter took advantage of the moment and pulled out his phone again, staring at the screen. I don't need anything from you, Winifred, I said quietly, except respect. But you seem to have forgotten what that is. Respect? She laughed. You want respect? For what? For being a simple school teacher all your life? For the fact that Mom and I could never afford what other families had? Or for turning into a stubborn old man who doesn't think about how his behavior affects others? There was silence in the room. Even Dexter pulled away from the phone, sensing the tension. I think you'd better leave, I said, getting up from the table. The party's over. See? Winnie turned to her family, ignoring me. That's how he reacts to caring. That's why I say he can't live alone anymore. Inappropriate reactions, aggression. I went to the front door and opened it. Go away. Now. This is about Sunny Hills, isn't it? Winnie wouldn't give up. Okay, we can look at other options. There's Evening Garden. It's more expensive, but... I'm not selling the house, I said. Never. This is Eleanor's house, and I'm going to die here just like I promised her. Mother, please, Mary Beth whispered. Let's just go away. No. Winnie stood up, folding her arms across her chest. I'm not leaving until we settle this matter. Dad, you have to be reasonable. You know what your mother told me before she died? My voice was shaking. She said, take care of Winnie. She's strong, but inside she's very vulnerable. I promised her. All these years I've tried to keep that promise. I've endured your insults, your neglect. But today you've gone too far. Winnie went pale. Don't you dare use Mom's memory to manipulate me. Archibald shifted uncomfortably from foot to foot. Maybe we really should go, Winnie. We can come back tomorrow when things have calmed down. Shut up, she shouted. Daddy, listen. I've got the papers. She pulled a folder out of her bag. I've already talked to a real estate agent. He appraised the house at $450,000. Sign here and we can start the selling process. I looked at the folder in her hands, then at her face, tense, with her lips pressed tightly together. In that moment, I realized I didn't recognize my daughter anymore. The girl I had once taught to ride a bike was gone. Grandpa, Mary Beth said quietly, I don't want you to sell the house. I love coming here. Shut up, Mary Beth, Winnie cut her off. You don't understand anything. I understand everything, Mary Beth said with sudden firmness. You want to take Grandpa's house. Winnie sighed, losing her patience. Okay, let's do it this way. We'll all calm down, eat, celebrate Daddy's birthday, and then we'll talk about it, like adults. I looked at her in silence. I knew she wouldn't back down. I knew this was just the beginning of a long and grueling battle. Okay, I said finally. Let's get on with lunch. We went back to the table. The atmosphere was taut as a string. Winnie pretended like nothing had happened, asking Dexter about school, Archibald about work. She ignored me like I was nothing. Are you staying the night? I asked when we were done with dessert. Sure, Winnie replied. We have reservations at the West Side Motel. We'll be back in the morning to continue our conversation. You can stay here, I suggested. The room's upstairs. No, thanks, Winnie said. The mattresses were terrible last time. And then the motel has a pool for kids. I nodded, feeling oddly relieved that they wouldn't be staying at my house. We're having a party at 6 o'clock, Winnie suddenly announced. I've invited some of your old co-workers and neighbors. I hope you don't mind. A party? I raised my eyebrows in surprise. You didn't say anything about a party. I wanted it to be a surprise, she smiled, strained. 76 years is an important date. It's worth celebrating properly. I knew it was a lie. Winnie wasn't interested in my birthday or my feelings. She just wanted to get more people together so I couldn't refuse to sign her damn papers. Public pressure was her favorite tactic. Okay, I said. A party's a party. They left an hour later, promising to be back by 6. As soon as the door closed behind them, I sank heavily into my chair and closed my eyes. The headache that had been plaguing me since morning had gotten worse. I pulled Eleanor's picture out of my pocket, the small, shabby one I always carried with me. What do I do, Ellie? I whispered. She wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted. The picture was silent, but I could almost hear what Eleanor would say. Fight, Harry. You've always been a fighter. I spent a few hours in silence, enjoying the peace before the imminent storm. I went through old photographs, watered the houseplants Eleanor loved so much, and even took a nap in my chair. But the peace could not last forever. At precisely 5 o'clock and 30 minutes the doorbell rang, and the living room was filled with voices, laughter, and the smell of expensive perfume. Winnie burst into the house like a hurricane, commanding her husband and children to set out snacks and drinks. She brought boxes, garlands, balloons, all the tinsel I couldn't stand. Dad, it's your day, so just relax and enjoy it, she said, setting the champagne bottles on the table. "We're going to do everything." I watched in silence as my cozy home turned into a carnival of sorts. Archibald was arranging chairs, Dexter was inflating balloons with a disgruntled look, and Mary Beth was laying out napkins and cutlery. "Grandpa, do you like it?" Mary Beth asked, pointing to the living room now decorated with colorful garlands. "Of course, honey," I lied, not wanting to upset the only person who really cared about my feelings. By 6 o'clock, the guests began to arrive. The first to arrive was Mrs. Pettigrew, my neighbor of 25 years. She was followed by others, former colleagues from school, a few neighbors, a couple of old friends I'd occasionally met over a game of chess in the park. But there were also a lot of unfamiliar faces, Winnie's friends, whom she'd obviously invited to be extras. "Harold, dear." Mrs. Pettigrew gave me a hug. "Happy birthday. How are you feeling?" "The usual, Martha," I smiled. "Getting older, little by little." "Nonsense," she patted me on the shoulder. "You look great, and the house has been transformed. Your daughter is a real magician." I nodded, not wanting to explain that it was all a show, a spectacle for the public. Soon the house was filled with people. Winnie fluttered between the guests, playing the part of the caring daughter who had arranged a wonderful party for her dear daddy. I tried to keep a low profile, exchanging rare phrases with old acquaintances, trying not to attract attention. Around 7 o'clock the doorbell rang and Winnie literally flew up to it. On the doorstep stood the real estate agent, Bertram Holt, a balding man with a shark smile and a suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. "Mr. Knightley." He shook my hand vigorously. "What an honor! Happy birthday! Your daughter has told me so much about you." "Not at all," I said dryly, releasing my hand. "I wondered what kind of things." "Oh, only good, only good." Holt laughed nervously, glancing at Winnie. "It's a lovely house, by the way. So atmospheric." "Thank you." I stepped back. "Help yourself, Mr. Holt. Drinks are on the table." I stepped back, feeling my anger boiling over. Vinny had the nerve to invite a real estate agent to my birthday party. It was like I'd already agreed to sell the house, like I'd already given up. I needed a breath of fresh air. I stepped out into the hallway leading to the back door, but stopped when I heard voices coming from the small room Eleanor and I had once used as an office. "At least 450,000, a man's voice said. "Holt, the neighborhood's booming. Houses like this sell out in weeks. If we put it on the market now, before the summer season starts, we'll get top dollar." "Great," that was Winnie. "I talked to a lawyer. If we can prove Dad's incapacitated, we can get the right to dispose of his property. I have a report from our family doctor that he's showing signs of dementia." "But your father seems quite sane," Holt said doubtfully. "He hides it well," said Winnie. "But believe me, he's always forgetting things, getting confused about time, sometimes not even recognizing people. The other day he mistook the mailman for a burglar and threatened him with a poker. I froze, not believing my ears. Nothing like that had ever happened. I remembered every day, every person, every event. Yes, sometimes I forgot where I'd put my glasses or my keys, but who doesn't? "In that case," Holt continued, "we'll have to act quickly. If the court grants you custody, we can sell the house next month. I know a couple of potential buyers who were interested when I mentioned a possible sale." "You've already offered the house." Vinny's voice turned icy. "Without my permission." No, Holt answered hastily. "I was just probing. It's strictly confidential, I assure you." "All right," Winnie softened. "But let's settle the custody issue first. I plan to file on Monday. My lawyer says that with the doctor's report and the testimony about his inappropriate behavior, the chances are high." I backed away from the door, feeling the blood pounding in my temples. Is she planning to declare me incompetent? Take away my right to dispose of my own property? My home? My life? Images flashed through my mind. Eleanor planting roses in the garden, Winnie, the little girl playing on the swing I'd hung from the old oak tree, our family dinners, the laughter, the warmth. Where had it all gone? I went back into the living room trying to stay calm, but a hurricane of emotions raged inside me. Anger, disappointment, the pain of betrayal. In the living room, Winnie and Holt came out of the study looking businesslike, but when they saw me, they immediately put on their smiles. "Daddy!" Winnie exclaimed a little too loudly. "We've been looking for you. Time to blow out the candles on the cake." "Really?" I looked her right in the eye. "I thought you were discussing how to declare me crazy and take my house." The room seemed to freeze. The music continued to play, but the people around us were silent, listening. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Winnie gave a strained laugh. "What nonsense!" "I heard everything, Winifred." My voice was quiet but firm. "Every word. About the court filing, about the fake diagnosis, about how you're already looking for buyers for the house I still live in." "See?" She turned to the guests. "See what I was talking about? He's getting paranoid, thinking up the wildest things." Holt coughed nervously and took a step back. "Mr. Knightley, I assure you, your daughter only wants the best." "Shut up." I raised my voice. "I heard you discussing the price of my house. At least $450,000, right? If we put it on the market now, before summer, we'll get the maximum." Holt turned pale and Winnie gave him a searing look. "Daddy, stop it!" Her voice became harsh. "You're embarrassing yourself and us. It's your birthday. People are here to congratulate you and you're making a scene." "A scene?" I laughed. "No, Winifred, you're making a scene. The whole farce with the party, with inviting the real estate agent, with the fake smiles. It's all one big scene." The guests started shuffling awkwardly from foot to foot. Some even moved toward the exit. "I apologize for the performance," Winnie said to them. "My father's been, not exactly stable lately. That's exactly what I'm worried about. His condition is getting worse." "I'm perfectly fine," I objected. "I'm not losing my mind. It's just that my daughter wants to rob me." "Daddy, please," Winnie came closer, lowering her voice. "Come on, you need to calm down. You're just confirming what I've been saying." She took my hand, trying to pull me away. "Let go of me." I tried to pull free, but she held on tight. "Archie," she called out to her husband. "Help me." Archibald approached uncertainly. "Winnie, maybe you shouldn't—" "Do as I say," she shouted. The two of them led me out of the living room. I resisted, but not too much. I didn't want to look aggressive in front of the guests, giving Winnie more arguments. "Where are you taking me?" I asked when we were in the hallway. "Someplace where you won't ruin everyone's evening," Winnie replied, pushing open the bathroom door. "Are you kidding me?" I stopped. "You're locking me in the bathroom? At my birthday party? In my house?" "Dad, it's your own fault." Her voice was cold. "You made an ugly scene," insulted Mr. Holt, embarrassed the guests. "Sit here and think about your behavior." "Pooh," Archibald interposed hesitatingly. "Is it too much?" "Don't interfere, Arch," she cut him off. "Stay here, Daddy, and don't interfere with our fun. When you learn to behave, you can come out." With that, she practically pushed me into the bathroom and slammed the door shut. I heard the lock click. "Winnie!" I pulled the knob. "It's locked." "Winifred, open it now." "It's for your own good." Her voice was muffled. "Think about your behavior." I heard her retreating footsteps, and then the resumption of music and laughter from the parlor. The party went on, without me. I sank to the edge of the tub, unable to believe what was happening. My own daughter had locked me in the bathroom, at my birthday party, in my house, so I wouldn't get in the way of their fun. The room was small, a toilet, a sink, a bathtub, and a small towel cabinet. There was no window, just a vent under the ceiling, too small for even a child to fit through. I tried the door again, but to no avail. The lock was old but sturdy. Eleanor had accidentally locked herself in here last year and I'd had to call a locksmith to free her. Ironic that now I was trapped in it myself. I sat down on the edge of the tub, feeling anger give way to despair. Is this what old people feel when they're locked up in nursing homes? This helplessness? This humiliation? There were voices outside the door, music, glasses clinking. My party went on without me. I wondered if anyone had noticed my absence, or had Winnie already come up with some explanation that I was tired lying down to rest, not feeling well. How strange to be locked in my own house, in your own bathroom, at my own birthday party. I sat on the edge of the tub listening to the muffled sounds of the party, the laughter, the music, the clinking of glasses, my party that I wasn't at. From behind the door came Winnie's voice, loud, confident, happy. She's probably telling her guests that I've laid down to rest or got a little sick. Or maybe she didn't mention me at all, as if I never existed. I looked at my hands, wrinkled, covered in age spots, with veins protruding. The hands I'd once used to hold newborn Winnie. The hands I'd hugged Eleanor with on our last day together. Hands that now lay powerless in my lap. 76 years. A lifetime. Childhood in a small town on the East Coast, military service, college on a veteran scholarship, meeting Eleanor, marriage, the birth of Winnie, 35 years teaching high school history, retirement, Eleanor's illness, her death. And now this, humiliation from my own daughter whom I once taught to ride a bike and comforted after her first heartbreak. I remembered how Winnie was as a little girl, stubborn but loving. When had that changed? When did she turn into this cold, calculating woman for whom her parents' house is just an asset to be converted into money? Maybe it happened gradually. Maybe I was too busy working, then taking care of an ailing Eleanor to notice my daughter changing. Or maybe she'd always been like this, just Eleanor smoothing over the rough edges like she'd done our whole life together. I pulled out my phone and checked the time again. 8 hours and 10 minutes. It had been almost an hour since I'd been locked in here. How much longer was this going to last? Until the end of the party? Until morning? My musings were interrupted by a quiet knock on the door. "Grandpa?" It was the voice of Dexter, my grandson. "Are you in there?" I was surprised. Dexter never showed any interest in me. He was usually completely absorbed in his phone, ignoring the rest of the world. "Yes, Dexter, I'm here," I answered, walking to the door. How are you?" His voice sounded uncertain, like he didn't know what to say. "I've been better," I answered honestly. "It's not every day you get locked in the bathroom on your own birthday." There was a pause. "Mom said you're out of it," Dexter said finally. "That you'd been rude to some guest and refused to calm down." Of course she did. Winnie had already created her own version of events. "I was only telling the truth, Dexter," my voice sounded tired. "I overheard your mother talking to a real estate agent about selling my house. My house, Dexter. Without my consent." "But isn't the house too big for you?" he asked. "Mom says you'd be better off in that boarding house." "This is my house," I said firmly. "This is where I lived with your grandmother. This is where I want to die when the time comes. I don't want to go to a boarding house. I don't want someone to decide my life for me." Silence again. "Mom says you forget things," Dexter said finally. "That sometimes you don't recognize people. That's a lie." I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "Yes, sometimes I forget where I put my glasses or my keys. But who doesn't? I don't have dementia, if that's what you mean. I'm completely sane. I don't know what to think." His voice got quieter. "Mom never lies to us." "Maybe she believes what she's saying," I sighed. "Or maybe she's convinced herself that she's acting in my best interest. But the fact remains that she wants to sell my house without my consent." I should go," Dexter said suddenly. "My mom will be looking for me." "Wait," I pressed myself against the door. Dexter, listen to me. I know we're not really close. I know that to you I'm just an old man who sometimes ruins your weekends with his moralizing. But I'm your grandfather, and I'm asking you, just think about it. Look at me with your own eyes, not your mother's. Silence. Then the sound of receding footsteps. He's gone. I returned to the edge of the tub, feeling bitter. Dexter was a good guy, somewhere deep inside. But Winnie had total control over him, just like Archibald. He wouldn't help me. Glancing at the phone again, I realized it was time to act. Time to call Edwin. Edwin Lockridge had been my friend for over 40 years. We met when he was investigating a series of burglaries at our school and I was a young teacher. Since then, our friendship has only grown stronger. He retired almost at the same time as me, after 30 years with the Kennewick Police Department. He was a widower like me. His wife Martha had died the year before Eleanor. I found his number in my contacts and pressed the call button. After the third ring, I heard a familiar husky voice. "Harold, what's wrong? It's your birthday." "Edwin," I said quietly so no one at the door would hear. "I'm in trouble." "What happened?" His tone turned serious. "Police training hasn't gone away after all these years. Winnie locked me in the bathroom." There was a pause. "Say that again," Edwin finally said. "You said your daughter locked you in the bathroom?" "Yes," I sighed. "I overheard her talking to the real estate agent. She's planning to declare me incompetent through the courts to sell my house. When I exposed her, she told the guests I was inadequate and locked me in here to keep them from having fun." "Damn it, Harold!" Edwin was clearly shocked. "It's against the law. Unlawful imprisonment, coercion. We can press charges." "I don't want to sue my own daughter," I said tiredly. "I just want her to leave me and my house alone." "I understand," Edwin said quietly. "But if she really is planning to declare you incompetent, you're in serious danger. These cases are often decided in favor of children, especially if there's any medical evidence." "She said she had a report from our family doctor," I said, feeling a chill run down my spine. "But that's absurd. I hadn't been to a doctor in 6 months." "Maybe she forged the documents or convinced the doctor to give her an opinion in absentia," Edwin suggested. "Either way, you need help. Legal help." I thought, what do you suggest? "I know a lawyer," Edwin said. "Samantha Dawes. She specializes in protecting the rights of the elderly. I could give her a call." "And what can she do?" "First, she can advise you of your rights. Then represent you in court if it comes to that. And help you get a report from an independent doctor about your legal capacity." I sighed. "That all sounds long and expensive, Ed." "Don't worry about money now," Edwin said firmly. "I have savings. And then the first consultation is usually free." "I can't accept money from you," I protested. "You can and you will if you have to," Edwin cut him off. "Look, Harold, this is serious. If Winnie gets custody, you lose all your rights. Everything. She'll be able to sell the house, put you in any institution, handle your money. You'll be legally incompetent." I felt a lump come up in my throat. Incapacitated. After a life of hard work, after raising a daughter, after caring for a sick wife until the end. Did I deserve this? "Ed," my voice trembles. "I don't understand how it came to this. How my own daughter—" "Money changes people, Harold," Edwin said grimly. "I've seen it 1,000 times in my time in the service. Brothers suing sisters over inheritance, children stealing from their parents. It's sad, but it happens." I heard some movement outside the door and lowered my voice. "Someone's coming. What do I do, Ed?" "Look," he said quickly. "I'll come over. Now, with Samantha if I can get her on the phone. Give me an hour." "What are you going to do? Break down the door?" "If I have to," Edwin sounded determined. "But first we'll try the civilized approach. Hang in there, old boy. I'll be right there." I pressed off and tucked the phone into my pocket just as there was a quiet knock at the door. "Grandpa?" It was Mary Beth's voice. "Are you okay?" Mary Beth. I walked to the door. Yes, I'm fine, as much as I can be under the circumstances. I brought you a piece of cake, she said, but I don't know how to pass it through the door. Don't worry about it, honey, I said. I don't have an appetite anyway. Mommy told everyone that you were tired and had laid down to rest, Mary Beth said quietly. But I saw her turning the key. Clever girl, observant like Eleanor. Your mom thinks I'm crazy, I said, or pretends to think so. I know she's not, Mary Beth said with confidence. You're the sanest person I know. I felt tears come to my eyes. At least someone in this family believed in me. Thank you, sweetheart. It means a lot to me. Grandpa. Her voice got even quieter. I heard my mom talking to that man. About the house, about the trial. Is it true? I didn't want to bring Mary Beth into this conflict. She was only 14, too young to be caught between a hammer and anvil. But I couldn't lie to her either. Yes, I answered simply. It's the truth. Silence outside the door. It's wrong, Mary Beth said at last. She shouldn't be doing this. She thinks she's acting in my best interest. I tried to find some excuse for Winnie's actions. No, Mary Beth's voice became firmer. She wants to sell the house because she needs the money. I heard her tell Daddy that they could buy a new house and send Dexter to a private college if they sold your house. I closed my eyes. So that was it. Not concern for my well-being. Money, just money. Mary Beth, listen. I pressed myself against the door. I don't want you to get between me and your mother. This is not your fight. But it's wrong, she repeated stubbornly. You're my grandfather. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. And that's why I don't want you to fight with your mother over me. But how can I help? I could hear the desperation in her voice. She took the key to the bathroom. I can't let you out. It's okay, I reassured her. I've already called Edwin. He'll come and help me. Mr. Lockridge, your cop friend? Ex-cop, but yes. Good, Mary Beth said with relief. Will he be able to open the door? If he has to, I smiled, picturing Edwin breaking down the door like the good old days. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Mary Beth, Winnie's voice suddenly sounded. What are you doing in there? I heard my granddaughter sigh fearfully. I just wanted to see how Grandpa was, she said uncertainly. Get away from the door, Winnie ordered. Grandpa needs to be alone. He's not feeling very well. But Mommy. No buts, Winnie cut her off. Go into the living room. Now. Time dragged unbearably slowly in the confinement. After the conversation with Edwin and the brief conversation with Mary Beth, interrupted by Winnie, I had fallen into an oppressive silence. That is, relative silence. The sounds of merriment, music, and laughter were still coming from the living room, like a mocking reminder that life was going on while I was locked up. I looked at my watch. 9 hours and 10 minutes. It had been almost 2 hours since Winnie had locked me up, and a little over an hour since I'd talked to Edwin. He should have arrived by now. What could have delayed him? I suddenly felt stuffy. The small bathroom seemed smaller by the minute. The walls seemed to shrink around me, the ceiling lowering. I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm myself down. At my age, panic was an unacceptable luxury. I pulled Eleanor's picture out of my pocket again. Her smile, captured in the worn picture, was like a breath of fresh air to me. Sometimes I thought I could hear her voice, feel her presence, especially in difficult moments like this. I miss you, Ellie, I whispered, running my finger over her face in the picture. If you were here, none of this would have happened. Eleanor had always had a way with Winnie. Even during the most difficult periods of our daughter's adolescence, when I was ready to give up, Eleanor found her way to her heart. She knew which strings to touch, which words to say. I never had that gift. My thoughts were interrupted by a phone call. Edwin. Yes, I answered, lowering my voice. Harold, I'm on my way up, he said. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Samantha's on her way too. She's A little late because of the traffic. Good, I was relieved. What should I do when you get there? Nothing, Edwin answered. I'll ring the doorbell like a normal guest. I'll say I've come to wish you a happy birthday. We'll see what happens next. I hid the phone and listened. The music got louder and someone was laughing especially loudly. It looked like the party was in full swing. I wondered if any of the guests had noticed my prolonged absence, or had Winnie explained everything so skillfully that no one asked any questions. I went to the door again and tried the knob even though I knew it was locked, just in case. What if Winnie forgot to turn the key all the way? But no, the door was securely locked. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I was beginning to worry. Where was Edwin? What could have delayed him? Suddenly I heard it. The doorbell, distinct even through the noise of the party. Then the music faded, the voices muffled, and there was a strange silence. I pressed my ear against the door, trying to hear what was going on. There were muffled voices, but I couldn't make out any words. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway, fast, nervous footsteps. A woman's. Winnie. She walked past the bathroom without stopping. Then there was the sound of the front door opening and my daughter's voice. Mr. Lockridge? What a surprise! To what do we owe the pleasure? Edwin's voice was louder and clearer than I'd expected. He seemed to be speaking so that I could hear him. Good evening, Mrs. Pollard. I've come to wish Harold a happy birthday. May I see him? Oh, I'm afraid not. Winnie's voice was soft with a note of regret. Papa's not feeling well. He's laid down to rest. Is that so? Edwin's voice became steely. Would you mind waking him up? You see, I've come a long way to congratulate an old friend. Mr. Lockridge, I understand, but— And these people have traveled a long way too, Edwin interrupted her. Allow me to introduce Samantha Dawes, a lawyer, and Rebecca Foster, a social worker from the Senior Citizen Service. A long pause followed. I could almost physically feel Winnie's panic. A lawyer? Social worker? Her voice got higher. I don't understand why they're here. We're having a family reunion. We have reason to believe that Mr. Knightley is being mistreated, said a female voice, presumably Samantha Dawes. We have received a report that he is being held illegally against his will. What? That's absurd! Winnie was outraged. Who told you that? I did, Edwin replied firmly. Harold called me and told me that you had locked him in the bathroom. That's not true. Winnie's voice trembled. Dad is just resting in his room. He complained of fatigue and I suggested he lie down. That's all. In that case, you won't mind if we see him. It was another woman's voice, probably the social worker's. It's not a good time. Winnie was clearly trying to buy time. We have guests, a holiday. Mrs. Pollard, the lawyer's voice became harsher. Either you let us see your father right now, or we'll call the police. It's a serious offense to hold an elderly person against their will. This is some kind of misunderstanding, Winnie laughed nervously. Nobody's holding anybody. Please come in. I'm going to wake up Daddy. I heard footsteps, a few people coming into the house. Then Winnie's quick steps toward the stairs leading up to the second floor, to the bedrooms. Where are you going? Edwin asked. I told you to wake Papa, answered Winnie. He's in his room upstairs. I thought he was in the bathroom on the first floor. Edwin's voice was calm but ironic. What? No, why would you say that? Winnie laughed nervously. He's in his bedroom, of course. Then you won't mind if we check the bathroom? Samantha Dawes asked. There was a pause. I could almost see Winnie frantically thinking of what to do. This is ridiculous, she said at last. But if you feel like it, go ahead and check it out. Don't say I didn't warn you about wasting your time. Footsteps came in my direction. 3 or 4 people. There, see? The door isn't even locked, Winnie said with deliberate carelessness. I could hear her pulling on the knob to no avail. That's odd. Her voice sounded falsely surprised. The lock must have jammed. That happens sometimes in old houses. Or someone locked the door from the outside, Edwin said dryly. "Do you have the key, Mrs. Pollard?" "Yeah, I'm not sure," she faltered. "Perhaps it's somewhere in the kitchen." "Harold?" Edwin called loudly, knocking on the door. "Are you in there?" "Yes, Ed." I came to the door. "I've been here for over 2 hours." There was silence in the hallway. Then the social worker's voice. "Mrs. Pollard, this is very serious. You locked your elderly father in the bathroom for hours." "Yeah, it's not what you think." Winnie sounded confused. "Dad was acting aggressively, insulting the guests. He started making up weird accusations that I wanted to steal his house. I just wanted him to calm down." While they were talking, I noticed a shadow flicker under the door and a key appear in the lock. A quiet click, and the door opened slightly. Through the crack, I saw Mary Beth's face, pale, with her lips pressed firmly together. "Grandfather," she whispered, barely audible. "Come out." I grabbed the key from Mom's bag while everyone was distracted. I carefully opened the door wider and stepped out into the hallway just as Winnie, with her back to me, was saying to Edwin and his companions, "I assure you, this is all for his own good. He's becoming increasingly unmanageable. We consulted a doctor and he said it's typical of the early stages of dementia." "Really?" I said it loud enough for everyone to turn around. "And this doctor's name wouldn't happen to be Bertram Holt, the real estate agent?" Winnie turned around sharply. Her face, already pale, turned white as chalk. She looked from me to Mary Beth standing next to her and back again. "Daddy," she tried to act happy. "You're awake. We were just about to wake you up." "Stop it, Winifred." I shook my head. "No more lies. You locked me in the bathroom and took the key. If it weren't for Mary Beth, I'd still be in there." "Mary Beth?" Winnie turned to her daughter, her eyes narrowed. "You—" "Yes, Mom," Mary Beth answered firmly, though I could feel her trembling beside me. "What you did was wrong. Grandpa isn't crazy, it's you." "Shut up!" Winnie raised her voice. "You don't know what you're talking about. Go to your room right now." "No," I said calmly, putting my hand on Mary Beth's shoulder. "She's staying here. She's the only person in this family who had the courage to do the right thing." Edwin came over to me and hugged me tightly. "It's good to see you out in the open, old friend." "Thanks for coming." I patted him on the back. "Mr. Knightley." A woman in a strict suit came forward, presumably Samantha Dawes. "I'm an attorney specializing in elder law. Mr. Lockridge has asked me to assist you in this situation." The corridor, with its dull yellow walls, worn carpet, and old-fashioned framed photographs, suddenly seemed like a battlefield. On one side were me, Edwin, Mary Beth, and the two strangers. On the other was Winnie, confused and cornered but still not ready to give up. "Daddy, listen." Winnie took a step toward me, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think. I'm really worried about you. You're getting forgetful. You say weird things sometimes. I just wanted to protect you." "By locking you in the bathroom?" I asked dryly. "You were aggressive, insulting the guests, accusing me of some absurd plans." She raised her voice. "What was I supposed to do?" "Maybe listen to him," suggested a woman who I now realized was Samantha Dawes, a lawyer. Medium height, with a short haircut and penetrating eyes, she radiated confidence and competence. "Or call a doctor if you really thought there was something wrong with your father." "You don't understand," Winnie shook her head. "This has been going on for months. He's getting more and more paranoid, more and more forgetful." "That's a lie," I said firmly. "I don't forget anything important. Yes, sometimes I don't remember where I put my glasses or where I put my coffee cup. But that's not dementia, Winifred. It's just old age." "Mr. Knightley," the second woman, Rebecca Foster, a social worker, turned to me. "In light of your daughter's allegations, would you be willing to undergo an independent medical examination? It would help to clarify the situation." "Of course," I replied without hesitation. "I have nothing to hide." "Great," she nodded. I can arrange a meeting with a neuropsychologist in the next few days. Wait, Winnie intervened. This is all happening too fast. We need to discuss this as a family, without strangers. I'm afraid this is no longer a family matter, Mrs. Pollard, Samantha Dawes said coldly. You've been holding your father illegally against his will. That's a felony. Winnie turned even paler, if that was possible. I didn't realize I was doing anything illegal. I was just trying to protect him and the guests. Another charge we must consider, Samantha continued, is your intent to declare your father incapacitated through the courts without his knowledge or consent. Mr. Knightley claims to have overheard you talking to a real estate agent where you discussed this. It was just a conversation, Winnie exclaimed. Theoretical. We were discussing options for the future. The future, which was going to be Monday. I looked her straight in the eye. When you were planning on filing the lawsuit. All eyes turned to Winnie. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, clearly not knowing what to say. I suggest we go into the living room, Edwin said. We can talk more comfortably there. We went into the parlor. Most of the guests had already left, and only the closest ones remained, a few old colleagues and neighbors, and of course, my family. Archibald was shuffling nervously from foot to foot on the couch. Dexter was sitting in the corner, staring at his phone, though I could see that he was watching intently over the screen. All conversation died down when we arrived. Mrs. Pettigrew, sitting in a chair with a cup of tea, raised her eyebrows questioningly, looking at the strange women and my tense face. "Harold," she exclaimed. "There you are." Winnie said you'd gone to rest. "Not exactly, Martha," I sighed. Winnie locked me in the bathroom. There was a dead silence in the room. All eyes turned to Winnie, who stood with her arms crossed over her chest, looking like a cornered animal. "It's a misunderstanding," she said at last. "Daddy's got it all wrong. I just wanted him to calm down." Mr. Knightley, Samantha Dawes stood in the center of the room, drawing attention. "Your daughter claims that you've been showing signs of aggression and inappropriate behavior. Do you agree with that?" "No," I answered firmly. "I was angry, yes, anyone would be. I overheard my daughter discussing the sale of my house with a real estate agent, without my consent, without my knowledge. How would you have reacted?" Samantha nodded. "That's an understandable reaction. Mrs. Pollard, do you have any evidence of your father's condition other than your own subjective opinion?" Winnie looked caught off guard. I have a report from our family doctor. He noted signs of early-onset dementia." "Can I see that report?" Rebecca Foster asked. It's in my bag in the car." Winnie was obviously lying. "I can bring it back later." "I have a suspicion that there is no report," Edwin said calmly. "Neither do the signs of dementia you speak of." "You're not a doctor, Mr. Lockridge," Winnie snapped. "You can't know that." "No, I'm not," Edwin agreed. "But I've known Harold for over 40 years, and what I see before me is a man who is fully competent, aware of what is going on, and capable of making decisions." "In any case," Samantha intervened, "the question of Mr. Knightley's capacity will be decided by medical experts, not on the basis of your personal beliefs. Mrs. Pollard. The question of unlawful restraint is another matter." "I wasn't holding him," Winnie exclaimed. I merely temporarily restricted his movements for his own safety." "That's holding him," Samantha said dryly. "And it's illegal, especially when it's an elderly person." Edwin pulled a small tape recorder out of his pocket. "I have something that may clarify the situation." He pressed a button and the room filled with our conversation. My voice telling about Winnie locking me in the bathroom and the overheard conversation with Holt. Winnie looked at the recorder with wide-open eyes as if it were a snake ready to bite. "You recorded our conversation? It's illegal." "In the state of Washington, It is legal to record a telephone conversation if one of the parties consents, Samantha answered calmly. In this case, apparently, Mr. Knightley had consented. What a bastard, Winnie hissed, glaring at Edwin. You planned the whole thing. No, Winnie. Edwin shook his head. You planned it. The sale of Harold's house, the stripping of his independence, the false accusations of dementia. We're just defending ourselves. I noticed Mrs. Pettigrew and the other remaining guests looking at Winnie with unconcealed condemnation. Even Archibald seemed to be standing a little farther away from her than usual. I want you all to leave, I said firmly. This has been a long and unpleasant day, and I want it to end. But, Daddy, Winnie started. Especially you, Winifred. I looked her straight in the eye. I want you, Archibald, and Dexter out of my house, now. What about Mary Beth? Winnie looked at her daughter still standing next to me. Mary Beth can stay if she wants to. I put my hand on my granddaughter's shoulder. She's the only one of you who's shown any concern for me today. You can't just take my daughter away. Winnie raised her voice. I'm not taking her away. I'm offering her a choice, I replied calmly. Which you didn't do to me. Winnie opened her mouth to object, but Samantha intervened. Mrs. Pollard, I would recommend that you leave now and consider your actions. At this point, Mr. Knightley has every reason to file a charge of unlawful imprisonment against you. If you continue to escalate the conflict, the situation will only escalate. Winnie looked at the lawyer, then at me, then at Mary Beth, then back at me. Her eyes were a mixture of anger, shame, and, surprisingly, a childish resentment. Okay, she said finally, giving up. We'll go, but this isn't over, Daddy. We'll talk about it again. No, Winnie, I shook my head. It's over for me. I'm tired of your manipulation, your lies, your neglect. Today you crossed a line from which there is no going back. What do you mean? She frowned. I mean that tomorrow I'm going to contact my lawyer and rewrite the will. You won't get another dime of my inheritance or a single nail out of this house. The room became so quiet you could hear the wall clock ticking. Winnie stared at me with her mouth open, not believing her ears. You can't do this, she finally said. I'm your only daughter. I can and I will, I said firmly. You've proven that you don't deserve this inheritance. You don't deserve this house. Dad, you don't know what you're saying, Winnie tried to change tactics. You're upset, I get it, but don't make rash decisions that you can't undo later. My decision isn't rash, I said. It's been brewing for years with every disparaging word you've said, every implication that I should vacate the house, every derogatory comment about my age or ability. Today, you just overflowed the cup. Winnie turned to Archibald as if looking for support, but he only lowered his eyes. Dexter was finally off the phone, staring at the scene with unconcealed amazement. Pack up, Winnie said finally, turning to her husband and son. We're leaving. What about me? Mary Beth asked quietly, still standing next to me. Winnie looked at her daughter with an expression I couldn't quite make out, a mixture of anger, disappointment, and perhaps fear. You're coming with us too, of course. Mary Beth looked at me, then at her mother. I want to stay with Grandpa. What? Winnie clearly hadn't expected that. Don't be silly. You're a minor. You're coming with us. I want to stay, Mary Beth repeated. At least for the weekend. I'm worried about Grandpa after everything that's happened. Winnie opened her mouth, ready to reply sharply, but then she must have realized she was under the scrutiny of a social worker and a lawyer. She took a deep breath. Okay, you can stay the weekend, but you'll be back home on Monday. You have school. Mary Beth nodded, clearly unable to believe her happiness that her mother had agreed so easily. 15 minutes later, it was over. Winnie, Archibald, and Dexter left, and the rest of the guests soon departed, politely saying goodbye and expressing their embarrassment at what had happened. Mrs. Pettigrew was the last to leave, hugging me tightly and whispering, "If you need anything, dear, just call. I'm always here for you." Finally, it was just me, Edwin, Samantha, Rebecca, and Mary Beth left in the house. We sat in the living room, utterly exhausted from the emotional turmoil of the day. "What now?" I asked, turning to Samantha. "Now you have a choice," she said. "You can file a formal complaint against your daughter for unlawful imprisonment, or you can simply use this incident as leverage if she tries to challenge your decision about the inheritance." "I don't want litigation," I shook my head. "I don't want to see Winnie behind bars no matter what. She's still my daughter." "I understand," Samantha nodded. "In that case, I recommend that you amend the will as soon as possible, like you said. I can help with that. Also," Rebecca added, "it would be a good idea to have a full medical examination by an independent specialist. This will help to disprove any future claims that you are incapacitated." "Okay," I agreed. "We'll do whatever is necessary." "Grandpa," Mary Beth said quietly, "can I really stay with you?" "Of course, sweetheart," I smiled at her. "I'd be very happy to." "What if—" She hesitated, looking at her hands. "What if I want to stay longer? Not just for the weekend?" I exchanged glances with Edwin and Samantha. This was a tricky one. Mary Beth was a minor. Winnie had full parental authority over her. "It's not an easy question," Samantha said cautiously. "At your age, it's up to your parents to decide who you live with." "But what if she treats me badly?" Mary Beth asked. Everyone became wary. "Does your mom treat you badly?" Rebecca asked cautiously. "No, she doesn't, if that's what you mean." Mary Beth shook her head. "But she yells all the time. At me, at Dad, at Dexter. Nothing makes her happy. And when I try to stand up for Grandpa, she says I'm betraying the family." I've never heard Mary Beth say that before. Of course, I'd noticed that Winnie could be abrupt, but I hadn't realized things were so bad at home. "We can discuss it," Rebecca said softly. "But not today. Today has been a hard day for everyone. Why don't you rest this weekend and we'll talk in more detail on Monday?" Mary Beth nodded, clearly reassured that she had been heard and taken seriously. Samantha and Rebecca left soon after, leaving their contacts and promising to contact me in the next few days. Edwin stayed. He was going to sleep in the guest room so I wouldn't be alone after such a shock. The three of us sat in the kitchen, me, Edwin, and Mary Beth. We ate the apple pie I had baked for the holiday and drank hot tea. For the first time all day, I felt some semblance of peace. "You know," Edwin said, taking a bite of pie, "that recording thing was a bluff. The recorder was off." "What?" I looked at him in surprise. "You didn't record our conversation?" "No," he smirked, "but Winnie didn't know that. Did you see her face? Priceless." All three of us laughed a little nervously, but genuinely. "So what now?" Mary Beth asked, getting serious. "What happens next, Grandpa?" I wondered, looking at my mug of tea. "I honestly don't know. Tomorrow I'll contact a lawyer and rewrite the will as promised. I'll get a medical exam to officially certify that I'm of sound mind. And then?" She looked at me hopefully. "And then," I smiled at her, "then we'll move on with our lives, day by day, like everyone else." "Can I come visit you more often?" Mary Beth asked. "Not just on holidays." "Of course, sweetheart," I squeezed her hand. "You're always welcome in this house, always." We sat in the kitchen for a long time, talking about the future, about plans, about possibilities. Edwin suggested we move to a house closer to mine so we could see each other more often. Mary Beth dreamed of summers she could spend with me. I thought about changing Eleanor's room to make it a cozy bedroom for my granddaughter. We talked about tomorrow, about next week, about summer, about fall. We made plans. And that, I think, is the true victory. The ability to look forward, to see the future, even when you're 76 years old and the day you were born has become a battlefield. I looked at Eleanor's picture on the kitchen table, and I thought she was smiling a little wider than usual. "We'll get through this, Ellie," I whispered as Edwin looked away to talk to Mary Beth. "Everything's going to be okay now." And for the first time in a long time, I really believed it.